Rum dum 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 da rum da rum rum. What's up, my fellow gamers out there? I'm gonna make a bet with you. I'm sure that we have a very similar memory back from around 2003. Are you ready? So it's like in the middle of the night, way past or like bedtime when we're supposed to go to bed because next day we had to go to school or we had to go to our first job, but we still awake and alive, and we are either sitting on the front of our computer hunched like this, and we are trying to win just that race for the first time, and we promised ourselves like 2 hours ago, okay, just one more race and that's it, I'm gonna go to bed because next day I have to wake up in the morning. But no, we're still racing and still racing, and yes, this was an absolutely fantastic time. And I don't think that I really have to introduce Need for Speed Underground to anyone, because if you were a gamer back then and you enjoy racing games, you know what I'm talking about. So this video is going to be a bit like a trip down a memory lane again, but I'm going to also talk about the game as well. I'm going to do a review as well, but I would like to tell my experience with Need for Speed Underground, and I'm sure that you have very similar memories. So back then I was playing a game called Street Legal. Maybe some of you guys remember that, and that game was still in development, was quite buggy, but that was the first racing game which you can like tune your car and go to street races, but it was like buggy, but that was the only option what I could really play. But one day one of my friends handed me a CD and told me, "Focus Street Legal, install this." And I was, what's that? Said Need for Speed Underground. I'm like, okay, never heard about it. So I went home, put in the CD, installed on my computer, started, and I was blown away. I was like, damn! It had everything what I wanted. It completely blew me away. And I was like, wow, what kind of cars! And funny thing is that back then my favorite car was a Volkswagen Golf GTI Mark 4. I know that this is a Mark 2, but this is the only t-shirt what I have. And at that time I don't want to have a Supra, or don't want to have a kind of car. I just want to have a Golf GTI Mark 4. And one of the starter cars in Underground was Mark 4. And I was like, and from that moment the game is completely pulled me in. I played it all day, all night, and I tuned my car. And I remember that I had a laptop back in this, so I was hunched on my laptop and I was racing on using the keyboard. And using a keyboard without analog controls is definitely a skill. And I went to a LAN party when the main game what we played was Need for Speed Underground. And this is the beauty of LAN parties. Check out my video about LAN parties. That the guys I was only knew one of my friends, and there was like, I don't know, 15-20 guys in his house, and I don't know none of them, but one thing was connected to us, and it was Need for Speed Underground. And the beauty was that each of us tuned our favorite cars and with a different look, and once I entered the house with my laptop, one of my friend said, okay, just go to that room and there was going to be an empty desk, just sit down there. I went in, guys were already in front of the computers, they were already racing. I was like, hi guys. So, oh yeah, hi, just come, sit down. So I sat down, opened my laptop, and we started racing. And I remember that experience was something really beautiful, really magical, that I never knew these guys, but the game and the racing and everybody could showcase their car was a really special kind of experience. And I think I'm probably not going to relive these, or not relive, but have these kind of memories anymore, because those days are just gone. And of course I can play a lot of things online, but that's not the same. And yeah, so yes, this is Need for Speed Underground. And now that no, you can probably see that I'm racing a Civic Coupe, because I don't know, I'm not really a fan anymore of the Golf Mark 4. I still would like to have that kind of car, but Civic was my choice with the Street Glow sticker on the back. Alright, So let's jump in the video and let me talk a bit about Need for Speed Underground. Let's get started. When Need for Speed Underground launched in November 2003, the series was facing an identity crisis. Previous Need for Speed games was about exotic supercars, scenic roads and police chases. Then something happened that completely changed car culture. The Fast and the Furious movies exploded in popularity. Suddenly everyone wanted to Japanese imports and of course body kits, neon lights, vinyls, nitros, and street racing had become cool. EA and Black Box recognized the opportunity and built an entire game around that culture, but they removed the police completely. And instead of Ferraris and Lamborghinis, players were driving Civics, Golfs, Peugeots, Mitsubishi Eclipses. And it was a massive gamble, but it was a huge win. EA basically bet against the house, and they not just won, they robbed the house. Need for Speed Underground sold millions of copies and became one of EA's biggest successes. Also, it completely changed the direction of the franchise. Without Underground, there probably wouldn't have been Underground 2, well obviously, but yeah, there would be no Most Wanted, Carbon or many of the Need for Speed games that followed. And let's stop here for a second, as I love the idea of alternate history and timelines, and just imagine that Need for Speed Underground would fail massively and EA would abandon the whole project and we wouldn't have Underground 2 and Most Wanted. And now that would be a shitty timeline where I don't want to live. But luckily we are not in that timeline, so let's talk about the gameplay itself. Unlike previous entries, Underground focuses entirely on your rise through the underground racing scene. You begin as an unknown driver competing in small events, win races, earn money, upgrade your car, unlock new vehicles, and slowly build your reputation. And this progression feels incredibly satisfying, and the thing is that before Underground this was unknown in gaming. Yes, you could win tournaments in racing games, but that was a different kind of experience. It was how to describe it best, it was soulless. Especially that here almost every race rewarded you with something, new visual upgrades, performance parts, new cars, or magazine covers that increased your reputation. There was always another goal waiting just ahead. One thing that I absolutely loved was the customization, but I think this was all of us. How much time we spent in the menu listening to those iconic music tracks while customizing our rides. Back in 2003 this was revolutionary. You weren't simply increasing the horsepower, you were building your car, body kits, spoilers, neons, hoods, mirrors, vinyls, rims, paint. Every player ended up with a completely different looking vehicle. It became just as much about style as it was about speed. And that was the reason that LAN Party felt special, because those young boys were proud of their cars. It was a virtual car meeting and we all presented our neon-lit, vinyl-decorated rides and was excited to race against real people. Talking about the races, Underground offers a good variety of different events. Circuit races are self-explanatory, while in sprint races you have to reach the finish line first across the city streets. Truck racing was a real technical challenge for guys who played without analog controls, just with a keyboard. Achieving the perfect shift was a real skill. I love the lap knockout races the most, as here the last place driver after every lap has been eliminated. And there was a drift mode which quickly became one of the game's defining features. It added another layer of variety that kept the career from becoming repetitive. Instead of finishing first, you rewarded it for stylish control slides through long sweeping corners. However, this was an okay event. For me, this was somehow my least favorite event. I enjoyed racing even more than just drifting around. And if there is one thing that instantly transports me back to 2003, is the soundtrack. From rock to metal to hip-hop, almost every race feels energized by the music. Tracks from Real Joe, Rob Zombie, Static X, Story of the Year, The Crystal Method and many others created one of the most iconic racing game soundtracks ever assembled. Even today, hearing just a few seconds of those songs immediately reminds me of late night gaming sessions. Very few games manage to tie their identity to music as successfully as Underground. Just a quick fun fact here, I made a community poll a few months ago where you guys voted Underground 2 as the best Need for Speed game soundtrack. I have to say that even today Underground still has a unique atmosphere. The races are happening at night, the streets are soaked from recent rain, neon lights reflect on the asphalt, the city glows with orange street lamps and colorful shop signs. Combined with the motion blur and excellent sense of speed, it creates an atmosphere that still feels distinctive more than 20 years later. Sure, the graphics have aged, but the art direction wasn't. And to be fair, I don't know, but for me the graphics are absolutely fine. Yes, of course, modern racing games are much better looking, but if the experience is good, I don't care if the graphics are dated. I wouldn't even call it this dated, or I don't know, I'm just too old school. If you are taking a step back and looking back at Need for Speed Underground wasn't simply just another racing game. It captured the entire moment in gaming history, when the tuner culture exploded, when Fast and Furious dominated cinemas, when everybody wanted neon lights underneath their car, when LAN parties were still common, and one more race usually turned into another 3 hours. If you never played Need for Speed Underground, it's still absolutely worth experiencing today, even if the newer games are better. It's a very important milestone of gaming history. And if you already have experienced it, there's a good chance that, just like me, the moment the menu music starts playing, you'll be transported straight back to the early 2000s. Because some games don't just bring back memories, they bring back a version of ourselves you almost forgotten. There was one thing what I was not talking about in the video, and I'll call it like traffic rage quit. Look, that. I'm sure that you know what I'm talking about. I think this, it was probably like made the developers like deliberately to piss off and just made the gamers like rage quit on the game, because how many times it happened in, God, like when I was on a 4th or 5th lap, like, it doesn't matter, on the last lap on the race, and you were really focusing, and the second racer was just really behind you, and you knew that even if you mess up, that's it. You fucked up and you have to start the whole race, and you took a corner or a sharp turn and you cannot see what's behind the turn, and of course there was a car and you hit it and it's just like blowing you off from the track, and just like, oh fuck. And it's really hard to say. It's frustrating, but it gives a special kind of experience to the game, and I experienced this when I replayed it now, that even if those stages where there are no traffic at all, because there are some races where there are no traffic, that's cool, but traffic makes even more stressful and more challenging. And I think in a way it's good to have those cars there, but it's really maintaining my blood pressure. So how was my experience replaying Need for Speed Underground 1? It's absolutely fine, and it's yeah, there are things which are much more better in the second game, and you can see a lot of has been improved in Most Wanted and the later series, but the game is absolutely playable. The graphics are fine. As I mentioned in the video, yes, of course, modern racing games are looking much more better, but this is good. This is just like early 2000 vibes. There's nothing wrong with it. The controls are okay. Yes, it could be better, but it's an arcade racer. And in a way, what I enjoy more in it was not 1 than 2, that here, okay, that you can choose in the menu what kind of race you want, like you can, how you customize your car. In the second game, you can have to go everywhere. You have to go to the other side of the town to get to a race. And I know that of course you can do some like quick races if you meet another racer on your way, but for me that was too time consuming. But it's still, that Underground 2 is still, of course, it's playable. It's a good game. I'm going to make a review video about that one as well, but this one is absolutely fine. One thing which I think is a bit of like silly, and technically it's not really like good thing, and maybe I'm wrong with this, so let me know in the comments if I am. But what I found funny is that if you start with a Golf GTI or a Honda Civic or something, you can beat a Skyline with the same. So if you get even the extreme like level 3 upgrades on the car, on the engine and on the suspension, turbo, it's going to be exactly the same. Like here, you see, this is the menu where you can exchange the cars, and when I'm changing one, nothing happens here. Everything is going to be the same. So how a Celica handle the same as a Peugeot 206? So it's in a way, if you exchange a car, it's just the looks. It's not the handling and the performance. So yes, this is a bit strange for me, and I don't know how the developers thought that this is going to be accurate, but this is how it is. It's not going to affect the game as much, but it's good. So Yes. And I'm really interested in your memories with Need for Speed Underground, because I'm sure that you have one. And let me know in the comments if you stayed up very late just to play this game. And if you enjoyed this video, check out my Need for Speed 3 review. This is a PS1 review, and this is a completely different Need for Speed game. It's an even more old school game, but I really enjoyed it by playing it back in 1997 or 1998. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'm going to see you in the next Backlog Quest video. Bye bye.